Joined now by our Tuesday insider, Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media. And, buddy, we got plenty to talk about here, but let's start with yesterday's Bodog poll question, and then we'll move our way into some of the nitty-gritties on the Bo Horvat trade. Did the Canucks get enough for their captain?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, in general, it's the idea that this is the forward-looking move. They needed to make forward-looking moves.
They're doing the thing. They're doing the thing where you trade the guy that's probably like, this is the thing. They're doing the thing.
Yeah. Whether it was the number one package, I don't know. But I would say, they got a first-round pick. They got a player who, I think Beauvillier is an interesting player. I mean, I asked him this morning, what's your best role? And he basically said, well, move my feet. And I was like, okay, great, thanks. But, he's a guy who scored. He's been in the league since he was a teenager. He knows how it works. This is who he is. You could do worse than Anthony Beauvillier. That much is clear. And then Ratty is, what did someone just say to me? They said, high ceiling, low, or sorry.
Yeah, high ceiling, low floor, yeah.
Low ceiling, high floor. Ceiling. No, let me see.
I would describe him as high ceiling, low floor.
So it's funny because
low ceiling, high floor. Yes,
I disagree, but okay.
Yeah, that's what someone just said to me. And you're like, you know what? I mean, because he himself said it. That was to his credit. I said, "What do you need? You played a dozen games in the NHL. What do you need to be better at?" He goes, "I need to be a better skater," and that's what everyone says. So, if he's aware of that, that's a good sign. I mean, certainly a lot of people do like him as a prospect, but there are concerns. So, and he is another winger. But you know what? For a team that doesn't have anything really in the pipeline, any prospect of any interest is a good sign. So, I mean, obviously this is grading on a very low bar. But like you said, this is the thing. This is what they needed to do, and they're moving in the right direction.
Which of those first-round picks would you prefer? The top 12 protected this year or the unprotected next year? Is there any chance the Islanders could fall off the table with that great goaltender and be an even better pick next year? What do you say?
I guess I'm a bit of the bird in the hand kind of thing. I get I get it. Yeah, okay. If they fall to this bottom 12 and it becomes a pick next year, yes, absolutely. You hope that they have a disastrous next season. But assuming Lou is in charge, he's not a guy that he may, even if you've lost his fastball, and there's a lot of reasons to think he has, he's still. I don't feel like he's a guy that's building a team that's bottom 5. It could still happen, but to sort of predicting a team that's in the mushy middle, like the Canucks currently are and the Islanders currently are, to become a bottom 5 team is a tough beat. And so I'm just of the mind, you know what? You got a first rounder. It's a good draft this year. You're getting a first rounder. The point is to accumulate young players. There are a lot of guys you can get around 13, 14, 15. That turned into useful players. Look at the debate last year over just where the Canucks picked Lekkerimäki and the players that were available in and around there. And this is a better draft, I think, than last year. Yeah, I'm very much like, just if you got the pick this year, you're totally fine. And maybe, the gravy would be, yeah, sure, the Islanders have a disastrous season next year and you pick second. But
we're still thinking.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. You need players. And especially, I think the other thing, too, is, if you are sort of a believer in they can actually turn around in a couple seasons, as like I said, multiple people have told me, you take the player this year because that guy could be ready he could be playing on your team in 2 years' time.
They did the thing now.
Yeah.
If they do the thing again, is this a sign that they get the exercise?
I think so. I mean, I go back to Friday night. And the honesty with which, the surprising honesty we got from Patrick Elby, and I said, is this shutting Mikheyev down now? I mean, this suggests that you guys know the playoffs is out.
They just got a lot worse here, guys.
Yeah.
Mikheyev has played very well, and Horvat, we know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Canucks, in the blink of an eye, just got a lot worse.
They've lost top 6 forwards.
43 goals or whatever, 44 goals, right? Whatever it was. I've lost track. But, yeah, and he looked at me and he said, "We're 27th in the league. Our metrics are terrible. Playoffs are out." So yes, I am cautiously optimistic that this is we're in the middle of all of this. That this is not going to be, you think back about any kind of the Jen Benning moments when he just did one thing, if at all. I'm confident we're not in that moment anyway.
They slow played us, didn't they? Like they made us. They sort of made it sound like they weren't fully committed to all this. Like a short time ago, it felt like, and we could maybe read between the lines that they were going to do it anyway. But at least outwardly, their outward message was, just wait, we don't know.
Yeah, I was never fully convinced of that. I never really thought of one thing or another. But as I said, let's start doing some stuff. Like it's time to do some stuff, and now they've done some stuff. So, if they'd held on to Horvat another 3 weeks, go to the deadline, maybe they could have gotten a little bit more. I mean, maybe Lou will turn around and flip him for something else. And if he does, then and if he does, then okay, there's your lesson. But
he does, Patrick. We have some show. Wow.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, the overall project in the end is they need to accumulate a bunch of stuff. If they somehow find a way to trade Tyler Myers, I will be very impressed. I think they're still in that window where they're still, Garland, if they can trade Garland, that's a guy they want to move. Boeser, they would, I think, love to move. You look at the way they've set things up. They're keeping Kuzmenko. They've added Beauvillier. Once again, another guy that is probably going to push. That takes up Boeser ice time. If you can move Boeser, it's funny. I had written a thing last week. It never got up. I talked about it. We were going to say, well, you keep Boeser and you trade Kuzmenko, but that doesn't apply anymore. So. I think that would have been the one thing. If they were really going all in on this, they would have traded Kuzmenko. But that, there's been so much discussion about that. We're now in the window where they're going to stay with Kuzmenko. So,
I just want to circle back on this. You guys think this is a signal that they're planning to rebuild?
I don't know. I've never been, to be honest, a fan of the word rebuild because I just that suggests there was something built here in the first place. It would have been a rebuild 10 years ago when there was a near Stanley Cup winner here.
Fair enough.
I just
semantic
no, but
police,
I do think they are trying to they are they're
trying to be competitive next year, aren't they?
Yeah, they're trying to serve both purposes. They want to be competitive next year, and they want to find a bunch of young guys, and the task is in front of them. And
competitive next year, though, guys. What does that mean to you? Because this trade
for them, it means playoffs.
See, but this trade, I don't know. I don't know that they actually meant that for next year. I think they said 2 years from now they want to be in the playoffs. I think next year they're willing to be whatever they're going to be.
Well, they came in last year, and I think and felt like this year would be the year that they could, get their ship in order to be playoff competitive the next year, and then went about, deciding in the summer, oh, wait a second, no, let's go out and compete, and let's see if we can make the playoffs, and let's put more eggs in this year's basket, and failed. So,
yep.
I guess it's really it depends on who you ask and when, then, PJ.
They're going in that this is Miller and Pettersson are going to be your centers, and they're going to go forward with that. And they need to find some young guys to come up behind. And basically, in a couple of years' time, they'll be this team of young guys led by Pettersson and I guess Miller, and there you go. That's literally the vision that they're going to have here. And I think that is a vision that if they actually go that way, and they execute, that is a vision that fans will buy into. That is what fans have been asking for. And there's I go back to thinking about those conversations I had before Boudreau's last game, and I talked to those fans outside, and one guy said, "No, I'm giving up my season tickets. I can't do this anymore. I still care about the team." There are so many fans like that. And the other guy was like, "Well, what else am I going to do?" And there's a lot of fans like that. Mm-hmm. But the overall business sort of package has been a challenge. They aren't selling out. The suite market is soft. They make money because they don't, they are profitable, but certainly not like they used to be. And they're profitable because they are very cautious in how they spend everywhere.
Which is why the seats and video board are dilapidating, right? That's
I mean, the video board, I
There's...
will say this. I have had some people tell me there is a new video board coming this summer, so we will see.
Ooh.
After all that, the Olympics paid for video board, which was having struggles in recent games. And that was part of the reason people came to me and said, I think we're getting a new one.
You just got to get off the couch and hit it on the side, and it'll work fine. It's as simple as that. I don't know why they don't just do that.
So anyway, but all these things line up. But in the end, there are fans who are ready, willing, want to be convinced. And if they can carry forward with this is, these are the guys we're moving forward with. And there's a bunch of young guys coming, and this is actually going to happen, as opposed to the kind of, hey, we're a young team, like they used to try to sell in the Benning era, and they actually weren't.
Perhaps the biggest wild card, though. Perhaps the biggest wild card in all this is who's between the pipes, because you could be a pretty decent team skaters wise, but if you're letting in AHL level goals, then you're only going to be so good. So where are you on the Demko file here? Would they trade Thatcher Demko?
I do wonder about that. I don't think they're opposed. I don't think they would be opposed to it. I think it is, you have to look at your succession plan. And right now you have Artur Silovs, who they certainly are high on. Mm-hmm. You got Akko Koskunvuo in the back burner, but he's a long project. You have a goalie coach who is still here for several more years, at least. I certainly, Dealey and Martin are stopgaps. Literally, they are there because they are, they need someone to stand in the net. I think in the end, if you look at it, you look at sort of goalie curves and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Demko is there was an argument to trade Demko last year. There was an argument to trade Demko before they got rid of Markstrom. Now, I think in that case they chose right. They picked the young guy and let Markstrom walk. I think that Markstrom would have been an investment that they just simply they simply couldn't afford given everything else. And now, of course, letting Markstrom go meant that they also got to bring him Oliver Ekman-Larsson, which is not exactly worked out. I think in the end that, as we are seeing, you got Demko under contract for 3 more seasons after this. You have concerns about his health. I think the question is, I think there probably are other teams that would trade for him. He's on still, we think, a pretty valuable contract if he's able to play. But I think I do wonder about those injury concerns. Clearly, he had the surgery last year that he didn't really want to talk about, but he definitely had it. And then he's dealing with a hip or leg problem. Best guess was it was some sort of adductor strain involving your groin, but we're not really sure what it was. But yeah, and it's kept him out. And it's been I don't think he could have been back any sooner. Certainly he was on that road trip skating, but we haven't seen him take a shot since before he was hurt. So, that part of the picture is a concern. I think you have to see him get back in the lineup. I have a hard time imagining any team trading for him in his current state, I guess is what I'm saying. They need to see him play, and he needs to get back in the lineup and show he can play before anything else happens.
Captaincy, or at least letters. Alvin said he believes Elias and Quinn have now, demonstrated that they're able to lead this team. He did not commit to anybody getting a C. He said it was possible if the 3A arrangement for the rest of the season. And of course, Tocchet's going to have a voice in this as well. How do you see the letters and the new captaincy shaking out?
Well, you've got your leadership group, and that's what matters the most. And does Elias Pettersson feel empowered, more empowered than before? Does Quinn? I think we know, we can see in Quinn Hughes that he is certainly the way he's been speaking out, that he feels empowered. It's funny. I remember thinking back, honestly, when Drancer first showed up 4 years ago, so trying to give him a sense of what this room, who are the guys in this room? How does this room shake out? And I remember saying at the time, I said, I think there's something to Pettersson that is captain-like. I'm not sure if he wants to be, if he's that guy, though, in terms of the public spokesman part of him. But I could just see there was a drive and a power to him that said that, it's certainly from setting the tone of what you need to be, that he was that type of player. Now, the public spokesman aspect is a big part of this role. And I don't think he's that guy, so that to me, I mean, that is obviously part of the equation now more than anything. The leaders in the room are the leaders in the room, and that's what matters more than anything. You do need your captain to be a guy that everyone, he can stand up and say something, the players believe it. That is forever sort of the case now put out, why you really can't have a fourth liner as a captain, why it just doesn't make any sense. They have to be able to go out and do it themselves. So that standpoint, sure, it makes sense. Of the players here, yeah, he's certainly, I mean, he's an obvious candidate, and so is Hughes. I can understand why. I wouldn't be surprised if they just go 3As for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then, once they've set a new roster, a new lineup, and sort of steered a new course into next year, then we'll see.
Let me speak more plainly then. Do you think they need to offer him the captaincy as a enticement to resign this summer?
I don't think so. I just don't think that's how. I don't think that's the thing he necessarily cares about. He cares about winning and the team being good and the team matching his power and ambition. I think the C, sure, might be a little item in there, but I do not get the sense that is something that drives him.
And I would disagree from this standpoint. There is no longer the Bo Horvat buffer between him and JT Miller.
Right.
This is now a question of whose team it is, at least I would think. Some believe that inside the room. And I think JT Miller is the type of, seize the day guy.
Right.
Try to get the power vacuum.
I think JT Miller is absolutely stepping up into the power vacuum here. And I'm not sure that that's going to be copacetic with Elias. And I think in the absence of Elias stepping up, the alternative is that JT Miller is going to consolidate more voice.
Well, and that comes back
and
to
I wonder whether Elias can live with that short term and B wants to be a part of that long term.
That comes back to a little bit what I was saying, was that in the end, is this, do you buy into what the guy wearing C is saying? And certainly, Miller's passion, the way his passion expresses itself, you're going to have players like him, but it's, it is a little bit, you go back to the Kessler debate. I think like Ryan Kessler probably could have been the captain because players were like, yeah, I respect that guy a lot. It's not that they don't respect JT. It's just that he is such a loose cannon. There are guys on teams you've played with who are like him, who are always loud. And in the end, they cannot be the leader because it's emotionally jarring. You need someone who just is there, who's leading the way. And he's just not that type of player. People see it. We've seen how he is. It is who he is. And I don't think there's any changing course from that. I take your point, Matt, that I think, you do have to kind of put your foot down saying, yes, JT, there is a limit and it's not going to be this.
Yeah. And I think you're at the point where you have to make a choice one way or the other. You were at the proverbial fork in the road, and we all know how Blake feels about Robert Frost and the road taken, right? So that discussion, we've had that discussion before. Do you suspect that they have to use that first round pick to solve defense? If not draft a defenseman, then at least be a part of the solution on the blue line?
I mean, it's hard to see how not, given it's been constant. I mean, Quinn Hughes is the last defenseman they drafted in the first round, right? Like, I mean, they haven't drafted a lot in the first round since they drafted Quinn Hughes. But yeah, I think realistically that is something you need to look at. And, hey, you could turn it into a drop. You could turn it into a trade, right? Like they have capital now to work with. Like that perhaps is the other way to go back to, could they be competitive next year? Well, could you turn that pick into a useful defenseman who can play right now? And that certainly would be, I think, still fitting with the MO of the, not just management, the organization and what they've been trying, the goal that has been handed down from ownership for 10 years now. I don't think that's an impossible move to make. I'm just speculating here. I have no reason to think this is what they might do, but I sit there and I look at that pick and I go, that is an interesting thing you could turn around and trade. And, if they are talking about, as they like to talk about, let's make a hockey trade. if you think about it in the sort of the trade tree element to all this, you turn around and say, well, we traded Bo Horvat for Anthony Aturati and defenseman X, who's in the NHL right now. And is
It'll make it look better. Yeah.
You know.
This prospect cupboard is not yet lovely, dark, and deep. They've got promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep.
There you go.
Bravo.
Our very own Robert Frost. Patrick, thank you for this. Bravo, Blake. We'll catch up next Tuesday, my friend. Be well.
I used my degree today.